So has the campaign taken a turn now, or is this just a temporary setback for Hillary?
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
I don't know the answer to that question. The next few days and weeks are certainly going to tell, because this campaign, thank God, will be over in November one way or the other. I think it will be. We couldn't end up in the House of Representatives because they don't have enough electoral votes, either one of them, could we? Pilar McCloud is here. Do you know her? Well, she's the chairwoman of the NAACP Regional Youth Division, meaning she knows everything about what's going on in our community with young people, which is an important thing for all of us to get a little bit of a grip on. We won't cover it all tonight, but we'll get some of it done. So welcome in. Nice to have you aboard. Thanks very much on this primary week. There's a primary tomorrow in Rhode Island. Check your local listings for the race near you, because I'm guessing there's not going to be a big turnout. Anyway, let's go to the rundown and just talk about this. Yeah, so, right, Hillary has a bout of pneumonia. You've seen this video over and over again where she falls down and almost goes boom. Here's the latest on that.
A bystander captured Clinton's difficult departure from ground zero, her legs buckling once as she waited for her van to arrive, and then again as she was lifted into it. Clinton had been at the 9/11 memorial service for just over an hour when reporters noticed she was missing. It would be 90 minutes before her campaign explained where she went, announcing that she felt overheated, so departed to go to her daughter Chelsea's apartment 3 miles away.
It's a beautiful day in New York.
Clinton was all smiles when she left the apartment 2 hours later.
Are you feeling better? Yes, thank you very much.
But 6 hours later, her doctor announced that Clinton had actually been diagnosed with pneumonia on Friday after experiencing a prolonged cough related to allergies. Clinton was coughing on Monday in Cleveland and during a press availability on her plane. Sunday's incident reignited conspiracy theories online about Clinton's health, theories that have flourished ever since she got a stomach virus in 2012, got dehydrated and fell, suffering a concussion and a blood clot.
Here, you take my pulse while
Clinton has tried to laugh off the rumors.
Make sure I'm alive.
Oh my God, there's nothing there.
There's nothing there.
You know, I don't know where this is going to go. You don't know where this is going to go. I have a funny feeling that Hillary doesn't know where this is going to go. Pneumonia, you know what? Guess what? A lot of us walk around with it. 68-year-old woman who's otherwise healthy, she should be fine. Some of the other issues may cloud your feelings about her being healthy. She's going to have one heck of a doctor's report coming out here, and you know, that image of her wobbling, and I don't know if you've been there, but I've been there before. I mean, it you know, it shakes your confidence. Never mind, just you know, it's not good. Donald Trump probably had to be strapped down. Here's his headline response. He sends her a get well message. I can only imagine what the camp had to do, what the Trump camp had to do. They must have raced to him and said, Donald, don't tweet, calm down. This is your chance to look halfway normal and presidential. And it seems like he almost pulled it off. But you know what? He was also given a gift the night before. New Yorker headline here. What's it say? Well, it says it's a gaffe. Oh yeah, it's a bad one, Hillary.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
Hillary Clinton's comments at an LGBT fundraiser Friday night gave new meaning to identity politics.
The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
Clinton said she regretted calling half of Trump's supporters deplorable bigots, but stuck with the accusation Trump has given a national platform to hateful views and voices. Trump turned the other cheek on Twitter, writing, "While many of her supporters will never vote for me, I still respect them all." But Trump's campaign is looking to turn wounded Trump backers into political gold with this new TV ad.
Xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
People like you, and you. Deplorable.
Clinton's comments stirred memories of other fundraiser blunders, such as Mitt Romney's 2012 declaration that President Obama already had the support of 47% of the country that didn't pay income taxes.
There are 47% of the people who will vote for the president no matter what.
Then Senator Obama also paid a price in 2008 for telling financial backers rural America had a regrettable attachment to God and guns and a fear of the outside world.
They claim to guns or religion or antipathy towards people who aren't like them.
You know, Hillary, my goodness. Hate the sin, love the sinner. Hate the sin, love the sinner. Say it 6 times over. She's going to have to regroup on this big time. Now, there's some data that makes her feel better, right? Washington Post has got some with ABC. That's the national spread. There are some really tough states right now. States that she should be winning handily, she's not. There are a couple of states that Donald Trump should be winning handily. He's not. So this thing is really starting to tighten up. And of course, you've got to focus on the Electoral College and states by state. But none of this data reflects the deplorables and her wobbling at 9/11. My guess is by the end of the week, she's going to be even or down in this race, which, you know what, in some ways may be okay for her, because she might be better in a comeback in the last 4 or 5 weeks. But she's not in good shape right now on all fronts. Remembering 9/11, anyway, that's certainly not a throwaway conversation. I was so moved by the numbers of people, both locally and nationally, who, you know, took the time. Special ceremonies, even your own private prayers, discussion with your family about what happened 15 years ago. I can't believe it. I can't believe it's 15 years. We all know exactly where we were when all this happened, and we all lost friends and family. You know, Father Michael Judge, the Franciscan priest who lost his life there at the bottom of Tower Number 1 due to a heart attack. Family pastor, family friend. Others that we knew, Jersey guy, know a lot of people in that tower. But it touched everybody, touched the entire world. And we might be better off safety-wise on a terrorism basis on a large scale, but of course the whole game has changed in just 15 years. We'll talk more about that over the course of the next week or so. I want to do some coverage on our security issues. And on a much lighter note, although there were protests from NFL players left and right in all sorts of weird form, regarding race relations and the police departments across the country. For the most part, America focused on ball games, and old Jimmy got his first win last night, rises to the challenge. Of course, he's all excited and talks all about how the team supported him.
I mean, having confidence in your teammates, you know, when they have confidence in you, you have confidence in them. It's easy to stay poised out there, I guess. You know, just you're in the huddle, you're all looking at each other, and you know, it's a good feeling. And to play with Chris, you know, he had a great release, and you know, it makes it an easy throw for me. And
of course, Bill was nonplussed.
Competed hard, and we made enough plays. You know, we were able to control the ball at times, and at other times not so well. But you know, those guys, they fought them all the way. We fought them all the way in all 3 phases.
Now look, this is the Giant fan in me. There's a bias here. There's no doubt about that. And we actually won a ball game to start the season, which is incredible. Did anybody watch this game last night? One bad snap is why the Patriots all of a sudden were terrific on all phases of their offense, defense, and whatever. The snap was bad. The hold was late. The field goal attempt went wide left. You get a good snap. Old Jimmy's not such a hero, just in case you're scoring at home. Right? All right. One story we didn't get a chance to talk about over the news cycle over the last couple of days is the news that the Superintendent of the State Police is retiring. Stephen O'Donnell is doing such, and already there's discussion about who would replace him. We got a headline here that kind of reflects on that. And not that my guest came in to talk about this, because she was originally scheduled for it, but Pilar, welcome, by the way. Nice to have you.
Thank you. Nice to have you, too.
As somebody who works hard with the NAACP and is involved in not only the local but regional discussions of young people within the context, do you have a thought on what the NAACP thinks about who should replace the state police superintendent?
Well, I am definitely sad to see Colonel O'Donnell go. Such a great man, wonderful supporter to the community. I do say that I have to agree. I believe a national search is in order. This way we can make sure that we give a fair chance to all applicants, male, female, people of color as well. And then this way we can also make sure if you get someone who's not from Rhode Island, have no loyalties in Rhode Island. What a concept.
Yeah, right. When you, that's funny. When you talk about, you know, being sad that Steve O'Donnell is leaving, Does that mean you're talking about some of the work that he's done, really trying to build relationship between community and police?
Definitely. He is definitely someone who has made a great, in my opinion, attempt and has been successful to building and bridging the gap between communities and police. You know, at a time when police are not at the moment looked at as favorable as they were when, let's say, I was 7, 8 years old. I'm not going to date myself, so don't give me that look. But back then, everybody loved the local cop in their neighborhood. And it seems like now that my own son and daughter are young adults, it's almost like the opposite. Young people see the police as someone who is not friendly and someone they can't trust. And to be able to build that bridge and make sure that communities know that, yes, you can trust us, and don't lump all of us in a pot. You know, we're individuals and we're people, and we're just like you. And at the end of the day, we all bleed red. We're all the same. So it shouldn't be, you know, it shouldn't be this disparity. It is, I don't say, don't let a few bad apples spoil a bunch, because that is a good apple right there.
All right, very nice. You know, when we come back, though, I'd like to explore this conversation about that relationship. Stay with us. Welcome back. So you're working with young people in the context of the NAACP. What does that mean to the audience?
So the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, we'll say that 5 times really fast, is the oldest civil rights organization. We are a national organization. I am the local Providence Youth Works Committee chair, so I oversee and advise the Youth Council, high school chapters, and the college chapters. And then I am the New England Area Conference chairwoman for the Youth Works Committee. There are 15 branches that make up the NAACP in the New England area, and I am the advisor for those branches that have youth chapters.
You know, you say NAACP, and you say yourself established, traditional, but I wonder, is it becoming obsolete?
Never. Have you not seen the news, Dan?
Well, no, but I want to know in terms of the community and on the streets. There's a whole bunch of other stuff going on right now with Black Lives Matter and other, you know, upstart organizations. I don't care whether you're talking about, you know, the minority community, the majority community, corporate America, politics. There are organizations that, when they're around, sometimes they don't stay contemporary, or they don't keep the pace, or they've outlived their well-being. I'm not saying the NAACP has done any of those things, but I just wonder what your objective analysis is about people's recognition of the organization, and for you and the youth that you're dealing with, whether they come to you in the same kind of pace that maybe it has in the past.
So for me, I've been a member of the NAACP since 2013. However, growing up in New York City, which is where I'm originally from the Bronx, I always wanted to be a member. I always wanted to join.
So I knew I liked you.
I love the Giants and the Jets.
Well, you can't do that.
Well, I got, you know.
You're obviously a confused person.
No, you know, it depends on the Sunday.
No, but, you know, the whole family's from the Pelham Bay area, you know,
Okay.
so I'm a Bronx guy. What part of the Bronx?
Westchester.
Westchester?
Right over there by the Baychester area,
Okay.
closer to Westchester County and Mount Vernon.
There you go.
Hey, neighbor.
235th Street?
231st.
Oh, my grandparents lived on 235th Street for quite some time.
Right.
That's a nice area.
It is.
It's a really good neighborhood.
It is.
Yes. All right. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. We're going to go out and have a coffee and talk about the Bronx. Anyway, you were saying,
So
in the context of the vitality of the organization.
Right. So I've always wanted to be a member, but as a youngster, my parents said, you know, no, we're not toting you up and down the road. Fast forward, I moved to Rhode Island. I joined in 2013, so did my son and my daughter. But for me, the vitality and the organization being relevant now, to me, is even more. The things that we fought for 51 years ago, we're still fighting for today. Voting being one of the major things, at least to me and the young people that I service. They're very big on making sure that their voting rights aren't gutted. Now, in Rhode Island, we may not have the same problems that they have in a North Carolina or South Carolina, but the areas where they're not as, or government isn't as open to the public. Here in Rhode Island, we can go and see our mayor on the street. We can see our Secretary of State, our governor in local shops. In New York, I only saw my mayor during a parade, and it's still the same way. They're not like here where we can actually, you know, I can go out, I can see you, we can have a regular conversation, and then I'm going to see you in your 9-to-5 job and what you were voted into office for. The young people that we service, or that I have the pleasure of servicing here in Rhode Island, are open to change because they know of the issues that speak to them: school, making sure that they're getting the quality education. For a lot of them, Black history is a big deal, and they're telling me that they're not getting it in their local high schools. And they come from a variety of backgrounds, from Barrington to South Providence, and all of them are saying the same thing. So if you have 20, 30, or 40 kids pretty much spreading the gamut in Rhode Island, or spreading the gamut in Providence, private schools and public, and they're saying they're not getting it, something's not right.
Well, I think the kids in Providence have done a very nice job, to be honest with you, in advocating for themselves. And we've had these young people in who are arguing about things that should have been as simple as the nose on our faces, and that is the safety in getting to schools.
Yes.
Whether, you know, traipsing over ice glaciers during the winter with no room on the sidewalk, 2.5 miles cross town, uphill both ways, and 4 feet of snow. I mean, finally, you know, they got politicians and community activists to follow them to school. They made a big deal about it, and although I don't think the change was all that they were looking for, they got some things.
Right.
And you know, we love bringing the young people on here because they obviously are the future, but there's things going on that really are well below the surface of the news coverage every day, don't you think?
It is. It's so much. Our students are fortunate enough that they will have their voices here, but I like to take them outside of Rhode Island. So they go to Boston, and we go to New York and Philly, and we get to see what's going on in Maryland. And we do a lot of things with the national NAACP office. So they get to see what other young people in either the same situations as them or worse situations than them, what goes on. And they get to have a bigger voice, and they get to actually express themselves in a positive way.
How many kids are involved with the NAACP these days?
So in Rhode Island, we have 5 chapters. We have Providence College, we have Brown University, we have Classical, we have the Youth Council, and we have Brown and RISD are combined.
Oh, that's a lot of organizations, but
that's a lot of schools.
Yeah, well, tell me what the
each branch,
volume, just like the neighborhood versus the NAACP. In other words, how many kids are active and purposeful in wanting to, you know, advance themselves, their community, their politics, policy, all of that kind of thing?
So in order to even have a chapter, you have to have the minimum 25 people. I see roughly between 50 to 60 plus kids per week. And that does not include college. That's just high school and youth council.
It's impressive, yet it's still a very small percentage of the number of kids that are out there.
It is, but at the same time, there's also, you know, the more you do, the more people know you, the more they ask you to come. So the more schools I get to go to, talk to, especially during Black History Month, Women Empowerment Month, that's the more schools that will say, hi, can you come and do something? Can we have a chapter? There are other schools that have asked, I'm not going to say their names, but we are poised to have between 5 and 6 new chapters, which will make Providence, Rhode Island, have the most youth chapters in New England.
All right. I am sure that there are people watching this saying, yeah, so how does that intersect with the new Black Lives Matter movement? We'll talk about that when we come back. Stay with us. All right, so, you know, listen, programs and organization, interesting, but not necessarily compelling for my viewers right now. They want to know what's going on in the community. Where does the NAACP youth movement intersect with the Black Lives Matter movement? Because right now they've got all the attention. And are the goals and the context consistent?
We have marched in some protests in New York City alongside with members of the Black Lives Matter movement, but we're 2 totally separate entities. And normally, even though our cause may be the same, the way we both go about them may be totally different as night and day.
Right, so somebody who feels real strongly about the way Black Lives Matter and supports Black Lives Matter might say, you know, NAACP is a real establishment organization. No, you know, safe, no risks.
Well, the last march we had.
I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying that they might perceive it that way.
We'll get arrested and we'll go to jail. I normally try to do the stay out of jail only because I'm not trying to explain to anybody's parents, hi, can you bring 50 and come on down to Maryland? We're all locked up together. I have, you know,
I got, you know, there's certain things I can't do. But I probably could, but I would do it by myself.
That's probably not 50 either.
No. Those
Right.
people in Baltimore are no joke. They
Right.
charge you for breathing.
Right.
But I try to, a lot of the things that we do with the youth, even though the NAACP has certain things nationally that we support, locally that we support, I like to let the youth kind of determine what it is that they want to fight about. So, perfect example, clean up PVD. Noel Frias, who was the president of our youth council, who is now a freshman at URI, wanted to clean up a lot over on the West End that was in his district. He went through the proper channels, got everything he needed right down to the supplies and donations, and he had a cleanup the same day as the Seek Peace event, which was at URI that Annette Alves had. So we actually had some people who did Seek Peace and some people that did clean up PVD. But that was all youth-led and his youth initiative. A lot of the things, right down to the voter drive, that's all them. The youth really dictate what will be done, and they really have a loud voice, so they are able to express themselves and get what they want in their community, because 9 times out of 10, sometimes the things that we want may not be what they want or they need at that moment. So if they have a voice and they can safely do it and execute what they need, and I can gingerly advise them, I can sleep well at night and then hopefully get to heaven.
Are you suggesting, I'm guessing you're on a fast track, but are you suggesting that there's more constructive work being done in this youth program than perhaps some of the stuff that we're seeing on the television every night or every other night?
Sometimes I don't think what's being shown on television is always a fair gamut of everything that our youth does. And sometimes, and most of the times, it bothers me, because I'm like, the kids that really work hard and the kids that really, or the young people that really are out there making the difference, they don't always get the light shown on them. It's the ones that go out and are the rebel rousers. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be a rebel rouser, because Mother does love to march. I will march and protest all the time. However, I always believe that there's a time and a place for everything. And at the end of my march, I need to see an action other than just I've walked my sneakers down to the bones and the soles. And our young people really, they take the lead a lot, and they know what they want and they know what they need for their schools, their communities at home, and what they want to do with their lives and how they want to further it and empower other young people, because Ms. Pilar may not always be here.
You want more kids involved?
Yes, I love the children. Please show up. 265 Oxford Street. We're at the Institute for the Study and Practice of Nonviolence.
We'll have that information on foxprovidence.com. You're a pleasure. Will you bring me some kids and we'll talk about some stuff they're doing?
I will bring you a goo-gabba kids, honey.
All right. Mama likes to march. Final word and we come back. So coming up tomorrow night, Joe Camarano returns from Providence College. Obviously, this presidential race is starting to tilt on a certain axis, AXIS, and I'm sure he will have a lot to say about that. Hey, I just want to say thanks very much for your viewership, which continues to increase here. I forgot to even mention, we were just so busy with Friday's program that Friday of last week actually marked 3 years now for Dan Yorke State of Mind on Meyer ITV, and now our growth to Fox Providence. And you've got 2 times a night to be able to catch this program, and so many of you are. I appreciate you passing the word, because, you know, it helps to pay the mortgage. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the radio as well on WPRL weekdays 3 till 6. Good night.